So today we're going to make some beef brisket. We're not going to smoke it and we're not going to put it on the barbecue. We're going to do something a little bit different with that. More on that later in the video. We are going to get the most out of it by slow cooking it, and we're going to serve it with some buttery mashed potatoes made properly. I will show you how to do that restaurant style, and we're going to make a gorgeous jus from all of those cooking liquids. Stick around for all the tips and tricks. This one is a little bit chefy, but really nice to put out when you've got a good dinner party and you want to impress some of your friends, or you just want to cook for the missus or the loved ones. Right, stick the kettle on. This one is a beauty. Let's get into it.
So we're going to need a 2 kilo piece of beef brisket. Your butcher can help you out here. You can get these kind of half-size ones. Beautiful bit of fat running through the middle. Take off a little bit of the fat from the top, just the kind of bit that looks not too smooth, just like that. Not too much now. And then we're going to set that aside and prepare a brine for this beautiful piece of meat. You're going to need 2 liters of water in a deep saucepan. Use one bigger than this, but this is all I had at the minute. 100 grams of salt, and then we're going to put a clove of garlic that's been sliced up and a good knob of ginger, a teaspoon of red Szechuan peppercorn, a tablespoon of coriander seed, and then we're going to need a nice stick of cinnamon and 2 star anise. Add 2 bay leaves, and then you're going to add a stick of lemongrass that has been cut up like this. Now what you want to do is give this a little stir, bring this up to the boil so that you can dissolve all the salt. Once it's come up to the boil, turn off the heat, pour it into a bigger container, and what we want to do is cool this liquid down and make sure it's ice cold, and then put your meat back into this. Top it up with a little bit more water if you need to. Cover this with cling film and keep it in the fridge for 5 to 6 hours. After 5 to 6 hours, take out the meat, put it into a clean container and just leave it under some running water for a couple of minutes, maybe 3, just to wash off that salt and brine. Put it into a clean container, and then we're going to add in 2 star anise, a good knob of ginger, and a couple of cloves of garlic. 2 lemongrass that have just been judo chopped like that, and 50 mils of dark soy sauce. And then we're going to add 3 liters of stock, ideally beef, but I had 1.5 liters of beef and 1.5 liters of chicken stock left. So that's what I used, and I topped it up with a bit of water. Then you're going to add 2 more bay leaves. Oh, and I also forgot, we're going to need about a teaspoon of black peppercorns. Then we're going to cover this with foil, and we're going to put it in a 300 Fahrenheit oven for about 3, maybe 4 hours until it's tender like this. This one's been in for about 3 hours and 35 minutes. I let it rest for a little while, and you can just see how tender this brisket is. A skewer should be able to go in with ease and come out with ease. That's when you know it's done. Cover it, let it cool completely, and we're going to put it in the fridge overnight ideally. Now the next day it's going to look like this. All the fat is going to solidify to the top. So take out your brisket, wipe off any excess fat and set that aside, and then you're going to skim off all the fat from the top of all that cooking liquid. And then don't throw away this nectar, this absolutely gorgeous braising liquid. So you're going to set around just over 1.5 liters, maybe 1.75 liters, and then the rest we're going to put in a pan and reduce. Now at this stage you can get ahead of the game. Reduce this, keep it in your fridge and store it a bit like a demi-glace. So we're going to put it in a wide pan. That's important. That helps it just kind of reduce a little bit quicker. We're going to reduce this over a medium heat. You can see how I've got the flame set there, and it's going to reduce down and get nice and glossy. Look at that. It's already getting quite delicious already. Now you can see it's almost there. Pretty much this is where you want to take it to. That looks absolutely spectacular. Add a bit of salt, add a bit of pepper, and then we're going to add some rice wine vinegar. You're going to do this all to taste. Mix that through, and it's going to be a beautiful, beautiful jus. Pour that into a container and set that aside in your fridge for later. Plenty luxury indeed. Next, we're going to move on to our mash. So you're going to need 4 medium-sized potatoes. Prick them all over with a knife like this. Sprinkle over some salt on the base of a tray. Put your potatoes back on, and then we're going to roast these for about 1.5 hours to 2 hours at 350 Fahrenheit. You'll know when they're done when you pull them out, and you can put a knife through as easily as this. These look perfect. We're going to cut these in half, scoop out the flesh while they're still warm. Use a cloth here if it's a little bit too hot for your delicates. And then we're going to put them through a ricer. This is the first stage of getting mashed potato. It's amazing how many people don't make mash right in restaurants, so they just take it off the menu. Okay, once you've gone through all your potatoes and they've gone all the way through the ricer, don't throw away those skins, by the way, because they're delicious. You can eat them. Bit of rosemary, salt, bit of olive oil, a lovely little chef snack. To your riced potato, you want to add 50 grams of cold, unsalted butter that's just been diced. Gently mix that with a wooden spoon. You don't want to go too crazy. And we've got 100 mils of heavy cream. that's been warmed up, just brought to the boil and just kind of simmered for a couple of minutes. Gently fold that through until that's all incorporated. You can switch over to a spatula at this stage, and then we're going to put it through a tammy, kind of like a drum sieve. Oh, make sure it doesn't fall through there. Get yourself a flat spatula like this and just push the potato through. It will go through quite easily, and this is going to get rid of all those lumps and give you a very luxurious mashed potato indeed. This might seem like an extra step, but trust me, you will have a fabulous mashed potato. If you don't have one of these drum sieves, you can just use a normal sieve. Now scrape off that glorious mash from the underside. And I like to add a little bit extra liquid to this. I'm going to add in about 100 mils of warm milk. Add it in stages. You want some full fat here. Don't skimp with any 1 or 2%. Keep going, mix it round with a spatula, and now season it up with a nice bit of salt and white pepper. Add a bit more of your warmed milk. It's better to add it in stages rather than all at once because different potatoes are going to have different starches depending on the variety you have used. Give that a nice little taste once it's all mixed through and you are good to go. Now you can store this in a container like this, smooth off the top, add a bit of cling film so you don't get a skin, but it'll keep for a couple of days in your fridge, no problem, or until later. Now we're going to portion up this brisket. You can cut this however you like, but just make sure you go across the grain. Now these little bits are nice. You can just cut them and we can pan fry these, or we can put them in another dish, like kind of burnt ends, stir fry, things like that. Now I'm going to cut off a nice generous piece here. You can definitely cut this in half, but I'm going to be a bit greedy and make a big piece. Trim off those ends, save them, and set this aside. And we're going to finally slice up some Chinese chives. They've got a nice garlicky onion flavor, very different to your regular ones. Now we're just going to sear and get a bit of color on that beef. So put a bit of oil in a pan and we're going to put it fat side down, the side that was facing up when we were braising. You want a medium-low heat. Just move it around the pan so it caramelizes the top quite nicely like this. The little end bit, just angle it down just to make sure you give that a nice sear. And you're looking for a beautiful sear and color like this. Oh yeah. Set that aside, pour out the excess fat, and then we're just going to use a bit of kitchen towel and wipe out our pan so it's nice and clean. Then we're going to go in with some of the reserved stock that we had, the braising liquid. Pour that in, it's going to bring the heat right down in the pan, and then we're going to add a nice spoon of that demi-glace that we had reducing down. Whisk that through, then add your beef back into the pan. Now what we want to do here is baste this beautiful piece of meat with all that cooking juice as it reduces. This will give it a lovely gloss and shine, and it will rehydrate and basically warm this piece of meat back up. Move it around the pan. You can see it's getting lovely, glossy and sticky. Turn it over and baste the top as well. You don't want to over reduce this too much, otherwise it will be too sticky. So just keep going. You can add a little bit more liquid to it if you like, a bit of stock or a little splash of water. Once you've got it nicely glazed up, we're going to sprinkle our chives all over the top. We're going to set this aside to keep warm while we warm up our mashed potato. You're basically just going to whip this with a spatula under a medium heat until it separates from the sides of the pan and becomes nice and smooth and glossy. Now put a nice dollop of this on a plate, not too much, it's very luxurious, so you don't want to overdo it. And then I'm going to put this piece of beef just to the side here and finish it off with more of that cooking jus, and we have a glorious piece of brisket here with creamy mashed potato and jus to die for.
I mean, just look at this beautiful braised beef brisket with a gorgeous creamy mashed potato, and that cooking juices just reduced down to this lovely jus. Wow. And when you put the Chinese chives on, they got a lovely little flavor. That looks pretty naughty. Let's get into this. This just breaks apart so easily. A little piece there. So tender. Bit of mash, bit of gravy. Cheers. Banging. Absolutely delicious. Super tender, holds its shape well. A really nice way to cook brisket rather than just smoking it on the barbecue. So do me a favor, if you like content like this, please like, comment and subscribe. See you in the next one. Cheers.